Hello, welcome. How are you doing today? Thank you for joining. I want to welcome a very special sister. Now, we have a really interesting story about how we first met, and I want to bring her right on. I want you to give a warm welcome to Jessie. I'll just say Jessie, okay? This is a beautiful sister, and she has quite a story. And I see somebody said they have their snacks. That's right. Get your snacks, get something nice and toasty, and get ready for, like, if we were sitting on the porch. This is an American porch conversation. And Jessie is a beautiful soul. And I want you all again to give a warm welcome while I bring her on and I'll introduce you.
Hello, darling. Can you hear me?
Hey. Wow, there you are. Yes. Hi. How are you doing? Oh my goodness, this is great. Welcome.
I'm in a camper. I don't know if you can see. That's the camper window. It's the only place that I could get a quiet.
I love it. This is so fabulous. Okay, you're getting love in our chatmosphere. And okay, Jessie is in a camper, everybody. So we have camper vibes going on. I know she has a journey and it is beautiful. The Money Honey, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to get in to see everybody, but I just want to get into this like conversation, okay? So Jess, I told people in the chatmosphere that we have an interesting story as to how we are connected. How much of that story should we tell? It's very like clandestine, right?
Right. So first of all, I want to say your intro is so beautiful.
Thank you.
I mean, it was so beautiful. I'm sitting here and it was like, wow, you're such an amazing person. You're so researched. Like every time I read a post that you make, it's so over my head. And I'm like, half of what you 110.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessie. It's amazing how, we both inspire, like I'm inspired by you and your story. And I know that right now people are needing to hear voices like yours, that you haven't given up in spite of any obstacles. And I know that there are a lot of people here that have dealt with obstacles, but this is in terms of Jessie's story. Restoration is the word that really it sums up, I think, your life and your mission, and your profession, your craft. And I want to just let you all know that Jessie is a restorer of art. Okay, so she restores art, and I want her to tell us how she, wound up in such a profession. And it is very intricate, and she has an impeccable quality to her work. And Jessie, why don't you tell everybody how you came to restore art? What was that path?
Which is awesome. When you told me you wanted to do this whole thing on restoration and life restoration, of course, we hooked up the toy hauler. We were driving around looking for another house to restore. And so I've been thinking about this. And an angel was sent my way to teach me how to restore art. I mean, and I can't say they were just God uses people, I think. And I'm not a really religious person. I just want to put that out there first off. But um, let's start what we discussed, the basics today. Um, just a snapshot of my life because it's in a microwave moment. I grew up on a farm that rehabilitated drug addicts and criminals from New York City. And I was just a little girl when we left in second grade. But even though my parents did a lot of good in that, my father was really abusive to me. And so I struggled as I got older, how to cope, I didn't really have a lot of self worth or value. And so I went out into the world like that, which is a horrible way to go out in the world, right? You get bumped around a lot. So I started singing, and I went through a lot of stuff in my family. Like a lot of families have a lot of problems, but it rocked me so hard that I took off. I bought an Airstream that was in the 1950s, sunk in the mud, and I pulled it by myself to Austin, Texas. And I put together a band and I started singing. And it was like, when I started singing, I couldn't hold it back. It was cathartic to me. It was like, it kept me sane. And so I started writing music and singing. And it wasn't to be famous, it was because it hurt. I was hurting.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so that kind of snowballed into self-medicating, like drinking. And so I was just drinking. There was no problems. I was having fun. I got to go tour in Europe. I got on the cover of magazines in Japan and a few other countries, just like the small genre. And the further I got into it, the less I kind of knew the people around me. And I continued to drink, which put me in vulnerable places. Microwave that moment, I found myself in LA. And that's when I met Harvey Weinstein at the Rainbow Room. He wanted to manage me. Of course, I was a lot younger then, and he was just probably looking for a victim. So thank God my mom kind of instilled that value in me, which is complicated. But so I pretty much told him to go to hell. That's a whole other chapter. But Lemmy from Motorhead was there at the bar, and he actually helped me get away. So that was very cool. And I spent the night at a diner, and I realized this really is not good. I'm so vulnerable. I didn't have family. Um, that was a very hard break. I stood up because of something that happened in our family that was wrong. There was sexual abuse that had happened, and I stood up and I said, this is wrong, when my whole family wanted to kind of brush it under the rug. And so I had a choice to stay there, brush it under the rug, or be gone. I was shunned. And so there's been some healing since then with my mom. But I left my family and I was alone for a long time, like probably 20 years, 15 years. And in that time of singing, I finally got to the point where after LA, I came back to Texas with my tail between my legs, and I just continued to try to work with music, and I kept finding myself in situations that were dangerous. And it was always, something with sex, with the men. And that was the choice I had. And so I finally said, you know what? If I wanted to be a whore, I would have started a long time ago. I don't want this life. And so, after a couple very scary incidents, I decided to pray to God to make everybody else better.
Wow.
I had the ego. I didn't have the humility. I was blaming my problems on other people and circumstances, but not, I didn't see that anything was my fault. And then one night, and I don't know what flicked the switch. I wish I could pray this for other people to be switched that have addiction problems. But I went to bed and I prayed that other people would get better that were in my life, not for myself. And I woke up and I had a moment of humility that was so vivid, and I just knew I was clear-headed, Jennifer. I was like, I knew I was the asshole. And I hate to use that word. I don't use it often, okay? But I suddenly realized I was abusing myself like my father abused me. And I saw it so clearly in my mind that I was abusing myself, and I was just as bad as he was. And so God just flooded my brain with this knowledge that if I quit and I start over and walk through this humility and start to change my life and start to learn to love myself like my father didn't know how to love me, but everything that I wanted from others, if I started to give it to myself, that I knew that God would walk me through that by a thread. And I felt so humbled. And so I quit drinking. I changed my friends. And over a couple months, more friends started falling away. And I had a miracle situation where somebody offered to help me open a business, an antique shop. I restored art. That was the one thing I had that that could carry me through. And so thank God someone saw me and gave a gift. And that's what this is all about, isn't it? Life restoration. We can't do this alone, ever.
Oh no.
We all need each other because we have so much. And that's the one thing I started realizing, the value of myself and the power what I can do because I'm getting to meet you. So I got sober. I cleaned up my life. I was lonely. It sucked. I learned how to live. I wasn't famous anymore. Not that I was ever really famous, but like I didn't get treated special. Nobody knew I was a singer. I didn't have fans. I didn't have anything. I was alone in a small town in Texas, and you gotta earn people's trust.
Right.
Are and I wound. Should I stop? Should I take a break? Oh,
Wait, 1 minute. Is it okay? Can you all hear Jessie? It went out a little bit. Can you hear me though?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Now I hear you again. Okay, great.
Okay.
So this is amazing, Jessie, because through your story, okay, now you had learned how to restore art before getting this business.
Yes.
Wow.
Um, a, an elderly man had seen a painting that I did. So my grandfather, his name was Hale Landry, and I've never met him, but apparently I paint just like him. And he taught Betty Davis. So he trained pilots in California, and her husband was a pilot, and so there's that there, but I've never met him.
Oh, wow.
And so
Okay.
us mixing color ability, it's kind of genetic, I think, because my
Right.
family, they are sculptors or
Oh,
work.
gotcha. Right,
So
right. Oh, yeah.
So I think art was in my genes, but somebody saw that and recognized that in me and asked me to be their apprentice in Texas. And so
Wow.
what happened was he trained me for about 3 years. And one day he he was a drinker. And one day he said, I'm going to the bar. You finish this painting. And I was like, oh no. But he went to the gallery and he said, how's my work been? And they said, fantastic. And he said that Jessie's done the past 20. That's how I got into that. And I've continued to do it. I still do it. Vermont is not really like Texas was. There was a lot of art collectors, but Vermont is pretty, they don't, maybe in Manchester, but for the most part, people don't have a lot of money. And,
Okay.
Bernie Sanders, welfare.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
So
I
it's just not
see.
market for art.
Right, right. I see. Now, that's interesting. Okay, so Jessie is in the Vermont area, everyone. That's where she's been for the past like few years. But Texas is also home. And to have that real range of having Texas as your homestead and then moving to Vermont, now, what exactly would you say besides that? Because that's a big deal, the whole kind of welfare mentality. But what was the other thing that you would say was the biggest culture shock for you?
About Vermont,
Yeah.
oh, they're really, really liberal. So, just one example, um, we cut down a tree in our front yard because it really blocked the house and
Uh-huh.
put moisture on the house. And a woman walked by and said, was it dying? And I said, no, we killed it. Like, I mean, you know, there's
Oh no.
uh,
Wow.
try to be loving, but there's an obvious hatred with the signs in the yards. And,
Wow.
you know,
Okay.
um, hey, am I talking too loud? Do I need to turn my volume down?
You're good. Your volume's good.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I've got
Uh-huh.
traffic road behind me.
Oh yeah, no, it's good. And let me know anybody in the chatmosphere if the volume is good. So far it is for me. I can hear you well, and I think it would come across. Somebody would let me know by now. So in terms of that being the culture shock, the liberalism and the hostility and things like that, in terms of the needs, what do you see are the greatest needs in Vermont?
That's a good question. I think, gosh, I think exposure, I think people need to go there. Um, Conservatives need to go there. They're very sheltered. Even their
Oh,
local uh, online newspaper, you
right.
can't anything, you can't say anything. They really are a bubble. And
Oh,
people,
okay.
they have no idea what's really going on out in the world. So the
Wow.
news is very uh, censored. Everything is very censored. And so people
Okay.
really believe that they have to be vaccinated. And if you're not, so, I mean, like the rest of the country, people are starting to get droplets of information. But I think
Right.
spiritually, um, it's a greater majority there
I
that
see.
is bubble, and Vermont is very controlled. So
Oh,
even the
okay.
people that kind of know what's going on,
Hmm.
um, stop there. The fear to continue to search is because they'll be socially exercised, like it's
Right.
yeah, and
Wow.
although, with Chris and I, they never ask, even though, I've got Betsy Ross flag hanging on the house, and I have, I, we have a really work ethic, like us, except us houses. But there's victimization. People have bitterness, like that if someone has more than they have, they
Mhm.
treat them like, well, just dislike. They dislike
Okay.
and actually doing better than them. It's a
Oh,
fair, and it's allowed for their entire life, to be honest. There's
wow.
so much
Okay.
in Vermont. They'll pay for the heating oil. They'll pay for the way to,
Oh,
so easier to be off work than it is to work. And trust me, I know it's hard to make a
hmm.
living. I know the
Yeah.
struggle is real. So,
Right.
but isn't that about life restoration? I
Right.
like when I quit, started, I tried. I worked hard,
Hmm.
and I ran over finance because credit was shot. Um, I own her finance, an old abandoned restaurant. It turned out beautiful. It was in flea market magazine, flea market style magazine. So, um,
Wait, hold it. I want to show them. Let's see if I can get this. Okay. Everyone. Was it breaking up? Wait a minute. Was it breaking up? Hey, the audio, Ann says, was breaking up a bit.
okay,
Let me know if it's cleared up, everyone. Okay, so here is something I want you to talk about. You were beginning to talk about this. Now, everyone, again, you heard Jessie talk about, she formed a band. She was singing down in Austin, Texas. This sounds like, I swear, I could see a movie being made about your life, Jessie. And,
we
she's
haven't even
singing,
gotten to
and
the
I
good
want
part.
to play. I would love to play Jessie, but I don't want anybody to strike for copyright. But everyone, if you heard this one song that she sent me, and I didn't even know that that she was singing, like, it was okay. I have to have it on my playlist. Wait a minute. Let me let everybody know, okay, Jessie, what the song is, and they would
Okay,
be able to look for it. But the title, everyone, is, if you look up Jessie Lee Miller, if you ask a million times, and we wouldn't be angry if she did like a little freestyle for us before it's over. But anyway, so the whole idea of restoration, she, took the background of abuse. We all, a lot of us have this trauma, in our families, and she left that, that cycle, and wanted to, get out on her own, and formed a band, and did well, and went out to LA. And thank God, you see how close people are to fame, like real deep fame. And she met Harvey Weinstein, or Weinstein, however you like to pronounce it. But how close of a call would that have been if she was hungry for
right.
fame and money and things like that? The easy path to compromising yourself. But Jessie believes in wholeness. And I love that you use that word a lot, wholeness. And I think of shalom, and the fact that you are gifted with these talents to restore. She restores things, everyone. Just think how spiritual this is. So tell us what we're looking at right here, Jessie.
So after I came back from California, I had lost everything. And I started over, and I started this little antique shop, and I could only afford to own or finance this abandoned restaurant. And this was the walk-in cooler. And I was so proud. I was on top of the world. I thought, this is my castle. And I took my friends to see it and I said, I'm going to live in here. And they all thought I had just gone completely insane. So I just took the ceiling is old beadboard that was given to me by somebody. The walls were tin from an elderly lady, her barn. And it took everything that I had to make this home. And because I restored art, I was friends with Amy from Old World Antiques. And so the chandeliers came from her. We did some trading. And so I just made it into a home. And I actually lived there until I met my husband. But prior to that, I I didn't have, and I think this is so important. I didn't have a man, and I had men offer to take care of me. Okay. I had millionaires and I had men that wanted to sleep with me to take care of me. And I said, no, like I want to be whole. I want real love. And I don't want to be in a bad life. Like again, I want a good life. I had quit drinking. I've come this far. I'm going to do it. And I worked until my hands were calloused. It was, but I think God blesses people. He wants us to try, and God will bring people into our lives. And it was the craziest thing. Here I am out in the country in Texas, making this old abandoned restaurant into an antique shop in front and my home in the back. And I had people come out of the woodwork to help me. So it's just been really amazing how God sees when you work. But Jennifer, I want to get to you, and I want to thank you for something. And I don't know how much time we have, but I started buying antiques from an old man, and his name was Robert. And Robert was a very tiny, scrappy dude, and he was a hoarder, and he had probably 30 acres of junk. And someone introduced me to him, and so I would go out there and buy junk. And he was very selective. Some guy, of course I was younger then, some guy said Marilyn Monroe is here and she wants to buy some junk. And he said, I'll be right there. And he drove his tractor down and met me. And I formed a relationship with this old man. He asked me, would you take me to the eye doctor? I couldn't believe that no one was involved. And I had no one in my life. I had time in the antique shop. So I said, yeah, sure. What the hell? Now, that's, first of all, had I still been drinking, I couldn't have helped this man. I wasn't available then, but I was suddenly available. So see, God, when you get rid of bad stuff, God brings new stuff into your life. And I believe that we all will feel called. I can't explain what it feels like, but you'll know when you're supposed to do something. And initially I was like, no. And I tried to find so many other people to help him because it was too far of a drive. There was other people closer. Like surely people wanted to help this old man. No one wanted to help him. And so I suddenly began helping this man for years until finally his son got involved and told me that I should step back because his dad says Jessie's helping me, so I can't help him. So the son takes care of him for a year, and his phone gets shut off. I'm thinking they probably put him into a nursing home or something. I wish I could have the pictures with this story to show you guys. But so to make a long story short, the son was neglecting him, and a year went by. He wound up in the hospital, and I get a phone call 5 days after I married my husband, who I'm married to today, Chris, who's wonderful. I get a phone call from the son, and he says Adult Protective Services is involved. Could you come talk some sense into my dad? So I go to the hospital. Here he is, 110 pounds, and I'm just devastated. And I learned something from that, which is so valuable, and I want you guys to take this for a future situation. I stopped and I stepped back because I felt that he wasn't my family. Okay. I was wrong.
Oh,
I regretted that, because aren't we all family? If someone is
right.
suffering, whether they're family or not, like if God puts them in your life, you're to
Right.
be there.
Yeah.
So I promised Robert I would never leave him again. And I
Oh,
instantly became like his daughter, caregiver, everything. Um,
oh wow.
110 pounds when we got him, covered in
Mm,
ticks. He had a dead animal under his bed. He had no running water. He had no food. His son just, it was a very sad situation. Um,
mm,
so Robert was very involved in the 60s in Austin, Texas, with a lot of political stuff. He had fought in World War II,
mhm,
and Robert started telling me some stuff when I first met him.
mhm,
And I kind of thought he was crazy. I have to say, I thought, this man's crazy. He's a
mm.
hoarder. He's just off his rocker. But I don't know how far to go, because it's a little scary of a subject, because I
You just tell as much as you're comfortable with. You don't have to, you
yeah.
just let the spirit lead you, but definitely use your
So
discernment.
yeah, so Robert talked about the JFK assassination when he was alive to me, and he said that there was someone on the bridge, and then there was three people. I wish I could play the video for you, because I have a video of him talking about this. And he said, and this is my confusing part that I've been trying to piece this together for years since he passed away. um he said that there was three people who knew. They were chopped up and thrown in the Brazos River. Now, again, I'm not really sure, because he's alive, and we ultimately took him in our home. We cared for him until he died. And I don't know if you've ever cared for someone, you have to love them. You have to. If you're going to
Mhm,
help them take a bath and feed them, and,
mhm,
thank God my husband is so amazing. He helped me take care of that aspect of it. Um,
right.
you have to love someone to be that patient with a spitfire like him, who
Definitely.
want to take a bath. I finally,
Right.
I said, Robert, you stink. And he's like, no, I don't. And I mean, we had to argue. And
Yeah.
so anyway, I finally said, this is what being loved feels like.
That's
I'm
right.
here to make sure that you're cared for and fed and everything. So that made
Right.
sense to him, and he would take a shower. Well, I still never thought too much about everything he said until he passed away. And he said to me, you go through every single paper. Do not throw anything away. Now, I take that to heart. I really felt such a heavy responsibility, because I promised him.
Mhm.
He had papers, floor to ceiling. Well, it took me weeks of sorting rat poop, silverfish in between the papers, lots of government letters back and forth from presidents
Right.
and stuff. I don't think he was high up or anything, but
Uh-huh.
I found a he used a typewriter, a journal entry with the name of the operation. that killed JFK. And he says the name of the operation, and he says anyone who has any sense can look it up in the Bible. It's Second Samuel. Let's see, how do I look on my phone? And
I'll look it up. Second Samuel.
I'm trying to go in my email to find the Bible verse.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get in my text message, but so anyway, I get this information after he died, and then I started kind of putting all the papers together. I tried to show my close friends, and they were like, whoa. And I got whoa by everybody. Nobody wanted to even think about it or hear it. So we moved to restore a house in New Hampshire. And of course, I brought all these boxes of these papers. I started trying to piece them together. And I started researching on the internet. And I started hearing that JFK Jr. might still be alive. And I started feeling, I remember being on the elliptical, and I had a painting of JFK sitting there, and I felt like, what? Like, fuck! What am I supposed to do with this information? Well, then I watched the video again, and Robert says in the video, there were 3 people. And for the first time in watching this video, I heard him say, I let her go in the room. I've never, ever heard that again. And then he goes on to say that Tibbet was involved. So I started feeling panicky. Like, family needs to know this, you know? And then I started thinking all the stuff he told me when he was alive. Like, trying to remember, what did he say? He said that Jacqueline had a baby. They told the country it was stillborn or had died. He said that wasn't true. And said they killed her. So I don't know if that's true or what. That might be just, I don't know. I don't know much, but I started kind of panicking about this because I didn't have anybody to talk to about it and find out. And so I started researching on the internet, and then I was like, God, if JFK Jr. is still alive, he needs to know this. Like, if this name of the operation is real, he needs to, like, the family deserves, maybe it's a clue to, you know, maybe it's the name of the CIA operation. I don't know. But I know that one thing, Robert was a lot of things, but he was not a liar. He definitely wasn't. And when you take care of somebody till the end of their life, kind of get to know them pretty well. Yeah. He was a stinker, I'll give him that. But he was a liar. And I just started panicking and searching on the internet. And I came across someone who I thought was a journalist, and she had hashtag JFK Jr. And I was like, this girl, I need to, like, so I wrote a woman named Jennifer Eason.
Yes.
Listen, I have this paper. I can't remember what I said to you, but God bless you, because you must have thought that, I don't know what you thought, but I had to send you a video to tell you I wasn't crazy, because I was almost
right. I remember. Okay, so she sends me a message on Instagram, and when you're not connected, sometimes you don't see the message right away. They can be hidden. And somehow I came across her message, and what she was telling me was so compelling. How long ago was that? Was that 2 years ago?
No, it was actually more, I think.
More than two, like 3
Well,
years now?
two or maybe two and a half,
Two,
3. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, 2.5 to 3 years ago. And so she found me through a hashtag and she thought I was a journalist. And I
Yeah,
was, I was just telling her, oh, I did this particular piece of content because of research. And we began to talk, and
yeah,
she shared about Robert. And then when she sent me got some documentation, some receipts, as they say, I became very panicked too, almost like I almost panicked
yeah,
too, Jessie.
yeah.
And I connected because one thing I will do is I'm a connector. So I did some connecting to get Jessie to the right people so that the Kennedy family can get this information, because it is very important that any information like this, and Jessie, I have to give you props because you're so meticulous. She had this man's entire life of documents and she had it filed as if it was a museum. I mean, you have such a talent for, I'm not even kidding, people. I can't describe how organized she was. She took everything, like if it was just a little piece of paper, and she filed things and it was just impeccable. So that, I mean, that alone, Jessie, speaks so much to the quality and character that you possess, and the
Well,
fact that you
part
restore
of that
things. You
too.
restored his whole story. You
I need to plug my phone in.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, absolutely. But yeah, so I'm
So,
just saying, like, that was really commendable to file all of that paperwork. And what I got to see, I was really knocked off of my seat what you had there. And it was just important, like what you're an American, you are loyal to this country, and if you have information or if anybody would come across information like that, you did the right thing. You reached out to somebody who happened to be able to connect you to
but you
somebody
know what,
who's actually.
Jennifer? No one, I tried to connect with a few people, and I have to say thank you so much because no one acknowledged me. And I started feeling like, well, maybe this is just crazy, and maybe people know that this is just crazy. And I started like self doubt
Yeah,
and then I was like, but it never left my chest to get that I had to get it to somebody because what if? Like,
right.
what
Yeah,
if it,
yeah.
because Robert said, is it getting dark in here? I can turn the light on.
A little bit
Um,
dark. Oh yeah, yeah. You're fine.
yeah.
Oh, there you are.
So
That's good.
uh, I'm standing here holding, I'm in a camper because we're traveling. I've got like, I'm
Yeah,
holding my,
yeah. She's traveling, everyone. This was so nice of you to fit us in while you're traveling. So she's in a camper. So we're very nimble around here. Don't worry, Jessie. We're fine.
okay.
You're
So
great.
two things, that are so huge to me is like, if it's true, okay, if the name of the operation is true, that's huge. Because
Yeah.
Robert said only 3 people knew. I tried to send
Mhm.
him on the honor flight for World War II, and he said to me, no, some of them might still be alive. Now,
Wow.
if it's true, had I still been drinking, I would not have been the messenger of that information.
That's
So,
true.
you know, I I just think that's so important. It's so important that I quit drinking in the first place. But like,
Mhm.
that's the thing. If we live our life right, like God's going to use us, and
Yeah.
in some way or another, whether it's to take care of, we took care of another old man veteran in
Mhm.
Vermont that had
Wow.
nobody. But there's a lot of weird stuff that Robert told me that came to me too. Like,
Yeah.
some stuff I'm scared a little bit to repeat.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I understand.
but he said that the LBJ had sent people to kill him twice. So that was
Mm.
his journal entry where it had the name of the operation on the bottom.
Mhm.
He said And I asked him, he said he killed them in self-defense. And I asked him, did you call the police? And he said, no, the Masons cleaned it up. They made it like a machinery accident, he said. And I asked him, are you a Mason? Because I remember this part vividly, because I was like, what? You're a Mason? And he said, no, he wasn't. So, but his one journal entry describes the man showing up at his shop, and he describes like he had traps. He was in the Navy, so he was big into like booby traps, and so he had cans, when somebody would come in and stuff.
Right.
And he had knives like in the wall. I'm trying to get the camera to capture it. Like they would be just a metal handle, like that you could pull out of a wall. And
whoa.
When we cleaned up his property after he passed away, they were there, like the pipe and knives.
Really?
Like stuck in the walls. Yeah. And he was definitely involved in something. He was very afraid of something, to the point where he wouldn't go on the honor flight. He was a gunner on the USS Hickox in World War II. They made him a gunner because he was a really good shot at ducks, he said. So, talk about the torture, though. Someone that we love so much and that I cared for. I mean, he left my husband and I his land, which he wanted us to save. Of course, his kids came out of the woodwork and it was just crazy. We never got his land, but I did manage to save it. So someone else has it. Thank God.
Good.
But yeah, it's very interesting. So I just thank you so much, because I was like, you were the first person to look at everything, and I put everything in dot loop, so now, so it could be pieced together. But I would love to know if there's FBI files out there that I could find. I haven't been able to find anything. And as soon as I talk to anybody about it, they just shut down. There's one girl I spoke to recently. Her name is Cheryl, and she works for Robert Kennedy. And she started texting me back and forth about it. And she was receptive, but it's kind of like silence then. Not that she didn't believe what I was saying. It just kind of turned chummy. So it's funny how it works.
Yeah, it's like they did the disclosure. I posted that a few weeks ago when they mentioned that Robert Kennedy Jr. had done a piece, an interview where they've disclosed that it was the CIA that assassinated him. And it's nothing new in terms of like a lot of people that went down into this rabbit hole, they knew it wasn't what they told us, the official narrative. But for you to have the details and
like about the three people that he says, and that they chopped him up and put him in the Brazos River. And he laughed in the video and said, they'll never find him, and then there's a woman. So, so in my research, I found, I saw a podcast with George Nassif on it. And so I wrote him and asked him. He sent me some kind of, is it dot loop where you download files? I have to look back.
Oh, I don't know. That doesn't sound familiar. It might be a file, like a place to compress your documents when you have a large amount. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not really good with the computer, but he sent me some files of the JFK assassination, and there was a woman that got erased from the video. So they kept doing the video, and there was a woman in the crowd that was erased from the video. So I wondered, is that the woman that Robert said he let go in the room to commit suicide?
Oh,
I mean, I
wow.
wonder, I don't know, but
It's, you know, it's so much that needs to be in terms of the public, and it's abroad. I mean, you know, it happened worldwide. People were traumatized by this. I don't know if you want to call it a psyop or whatever. Definitely it was a psyop on the public in terms of the official story. But I know Girl Code, you have to be Girl Code. Girl Code and I were looking at some pictures that had been released like maybe 2 years ago. These are pictures that were never really seen. And I noticed that, okay, they had a bunch of men who were going home from work. It was rush hour on a train, and it was in, I guess, Dallas, or I don't know where it was, somewhere. And the men were facing the front of the train. The picture, whoever took the picture, the photographer was in the back, like in between the trains, because it had to be from the angle. But the photographer was taking a picture from that position, and all the men, they had the newspaper opened like it was like choreographed. They were reading the
yeah,
paper with the headline about JFK being assassinated, and the floor of the train was checkerboard, you know, black and white. It was a lot of things I saw that I wouldn't
yeah.
normally look at, but I was just thinking, why would every man on the train have the newspaper open at the same time and, you know, looking at the story? It was a lot of photography like that. So I think that because we're learning that this group of magicians, whatever you want to call it, psychological, narcissistic, you know, people that control this system, if they are exposed, truth, like all the truth to come out um, about that particular, I'm gonna call it a psyop,
Hmm.
and it needs to be exposed. And we're in a, like, Jesse, we are in a time right now that even though it may not seem that there's justice that would be done from how long ago, but we need to have justice for it. There are people that are still alive possibly that have been involved, but the agencies themselves need to be disbanded because of
Oh my
the
gosh, yeah.
nature. You know what I'm saying? To do such
Right.
a thing, it can't just go you know, unchecked, and we accept lies. And this is where we are now as a nation. We let that go so long, and people became apathetic, and still apathetic towards the information that came out a couple of weeks ago. It's like, does that really like make people, you know, move? What is
And
it
a lot of
doing?
people think, they think, you know, oh, it was so long ago. What does it matter? Oh my God, it so matters. I mean, it's
It
it's
so
it's like,
matters.
you know, my mom had a saying that she used to say. She said, "Don't dig up old." Ooh, my dog just came in.
Okay.
This is
Oh,
Max.
cute.
Can you see him?
Hey, Max.
Max.
Oh, so cute. Hey,
Yeah.
Max.
Ooh, let me see if I
Well,
can
hello.
get him. Max, say hi.
He's
Come here.
so cute. Max.
Yeah, my
Oh.
husband just put him in here with me. Yeah,
Oh.
he's 150-pound Pyrenees.
Oh, yeah.
um,
He's beautiful. I love seeing him on your Instagram.
yeah, he's a sweetie. He's a
Yes.
big
Oh,
boy. So,
yeah.
but you know, it's my mom says a saying, and I love my mom. I'm not dissing on my mom, but she says, "Don't." It's an old timers saying, "Don't dig up old dirt because it just stinks." Well, why bury it in the first place? You know, like
Yeah. Yeah.
that becomes a generational uh,
Right.
defect, and it hurts generations and generations to come. Like, what's that saying? The
Yeah.
sins of the father. You know,
Yes.
I
Are
feel like
revisited.
we need to be really honest in this country, whatever's going on. I
Absolutely.
mean, this whole paper that I found in Roberts kind of spiraled me into learning about politics. I never cared about it.
Right.
But I
Right.
think that, you know, we need to really learn to stand up and walk alone sometimes,
That's
whether
right.
and it's like, remember when I said when I left my family because something
Mhm.
bad happened and it was wrong, and I didn't want to go along with it, and I stood up, and I wound up being alone for 20 years. So standing up
Wow.
does have a cost, and
Yeah, it does.
but it's like you got to stay whole. You can't sell your soul, whatever it is. And I
Yeah.
feel like this country is kind of going through that pain
Hmm.
of, you know, do I suppress? Do I stay like not who I am, or do I stand up and say, no, this is wrong? And
Right.
a lot of people will lose family members,
That's right.
and that is the reason they get vaccinated so they can go on vacation, for Christ's sake. So,
Oh,
you know,
yeah. Yeah.
it's just
It's
so crazy
painful.
right now. And
It is.
Jennifer, I really hope, like, I started journaling all of this from
Good.
like, so my first chapter is, who is Juan O'Savin? That's what, because my studying and my
Uh-huh.
researching and piecing brought me to that book.
Oh, right. Right.
So I
Okay.
ordered that
Yeah. Yeah.
book and I read the book and I was
Right.
like, what the, like, oh my God. And that
Right.
book didn't do me any favors with like going down the rabbit hole, because I started freaking out, and everything, little tidbits of what Robert said.
Hmm.
And in fact, Robert sued LBJ. You can find it online. Robert
Wow.
Delman Hale. His last
Uh-huh.
name is spelled Hejl.
Okay.
You can find. You'll probably find the court estate fight with his kids too that took his land, but or they
Yeah.
didn't take his land, but it's a long story. So you'll Robert Hale versus the Texas State Supreme Court. So
Hmm.
LBJ got really mad at him because he had a loudspeaker and he would say that DDT causes cancer. So he would say this around Austin, Texas. So LBJ got mad and dumped 8 boxes of DDT on his property. And it made it to the Supreme Court. Um,
Wow.
and they admitted they did it. And they said it was a mistake. And I have a video of Robert talking about this. And
Oh, wow.
so that's really interesting. So I don't know what the deal was there, but he was very like anti-chemicals in food. He only drank well water. So you see what I mean? The contrast,
Yeah,
like,
he knew. Yeah, he knew something enough to be careful and avoid what he had knowledge, of the DDT. DDT, everybody, it is a pesticide that was used that's definitely linked to the high rates of cluster cancers and things like that. So a lot of that
and I
stuff has
had a sample of it. He left a jar
whoa.
with a date
Uh-huh.
from the 60s of a bottle of DDT, but I did throw it away. I should have saved it.
Oh, wow.
But I wasn't going to really carry around DDT as much as we
No,
travel.
yeah,
You have to. And at a certain point, people stopped listening and caring. So I started downsizing all of the stuff I had.
I
Um,
see. Yeah.
but yeah, it's really interesting. And so the journey it's not over yet, I don't think.
No, it's
I,
not over.
I
Tell
was,
us, Jessie, about I want you to talk about this particular town. Everyone, I want you to know that Jessie not only restores artwork, but she restores properties as well. Beautiful restorations. And she wanted to go into a town in America that, is dying on the vine or dead, and to
Clayton,
go
Alabama.
and yeah, in Alabama, everybody. And she wanted to
Yeah.
bring her gift of restoration to this small town that's been left behind. Tell us about that and what you think now that you've gotten to see this small town in Alabama.
So, you're no good to anybody if you lay yourself down on the tracks. um, I I really would love to throw myself into this town, Clayton, Alabama. Michael
Mhm.
Jackson's mother came from there. And then did you see? Here's the weird freaking thing. I get there and the designer for Jacqueline Kennedy's wedding dress is painted on the wall. And I'm like, oh my God, like I am everywhere in this, like
Yeah.
interwoven. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just
It's covered up.
everywhere I go, it's something to do with the Kennedys. It's the craziest thing. And
Wow.
so I sent you the picture of her. She's painted a
Yeah.
mural on the wall. So
I love it.
Clayton, Alabama, from what
Hmm.
I understand, had one of the biggest KKK marches back. I can't remember the date, but my
Hmm.
husband told me it was because of a football player they were protesting. Something like
Oh,
4,500 people marched there and
okay.
for this town. And it was a little weird when I was there.
Hmm.
I kind I kind of felt like the I met one of the elderly women and she was white and she said, I'm named after, and she whispered, she said, I'm named after a black girl. And I'm like, oh God, and then she's like, don't tell anybody. So that was a little weird for me. I was like,
That's
wow.
interesting.
Um,
Okay.
but there's it's 68% black and 38% white now. And the
Wow.
houses are, man, if you want to buy a town, this is the place to go do it, because there's
Wow.
all these downtown buildings just sitting empty. There's a beautiful house for sale with gorgeous like front porch. Max, come here.
Mhm.
Come here. I'm right here. I'm not giving him attention, so he's here. I'll sit with you. So, yeah, that town is fantastic. I tell people we restore houses and people.
I
So,
love it.
I
So
would
what did
love
you
to do
what
a whole
was
town.
yeah, why not? What was the thing that brought that town prosperity at one time? What was their main industry, do you know?
I did research that a little bit. Um, Eufaula is right near it, and they flooded part of the town of Eufaula to make number one bass fishing in the
Oh.
country, like, or something. But the town, yeah, I can't recall. A lot of bankers or something.
Oh, really
Yeah,
interesting.
I'm not.
So,
There was
do you
railroad.
railroad, yeah, they always have railroads coming through a lot of these little towns. They have so many towns, everyone, that are like this town that she just visited called Clayton, Alabama.
Yeah,
And a lot of the industry, they've moved a lot of the jobs out of these little southern towns and they moved them overseas to China and Mexico for some
yeah.
manufacturing. So I was just wondering if maybe one of those industries that are kind of typical that they kind of pulled out of these towns. So you have
And it's so
a
sad.
big poverty. Yeah, it's a big poverty issue. And so you were
Yeah.
saying that there was nothing around. Like if you wanted to even, what was the likelihood like in terms of trying to work within this town? What did you learn?
So there was a young lady doing like the cafe had died. She had a little hot bar and she was serving out of
Mm.
a hot bar, kind of like something at a roller rink or something. There was no
Oh, wow.
restaurants. There was a courthouse. So um, I feel like, God, I wish I was really rich, because I feel like what I would do is go in a town like this and bring back the restaurants, bring back the hair salon, bring back,
Mm.
the hardware store that closed down,
Right.
and you could still see the tools in it. Um, Bring it back and, find the best cook in town, put a coffee bar, because everybody wants to go have coffee in the morning, and
That's true.
it kind of reunite the town, and you know it just build people's spirits back up to try.
Mhm.
If
Mhm.
enough people, you can't lift a tent by yourself, but
That's right.
if you have enough people lifting at once, kind of
Mhm.
thing, I feel like that town and a lot of the small towns across America,
Mhm.
I feel like if someone went in, I mean, what's happened to us as a country has been so devastating that it's impossible for one person to bear the burden of bringing it back, you know,
Yeah. True.
against,
True.
I mean, because like you said, I said, what happened to this town? And you said it's targeted. And, they
Hmm.
are. I mean, they don't want
Yeah.
small business. I can see
No.
it now in Vermont. If I'm a
Yeah.
nonprofit, I can get tons of money.
Oh yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but if you're actually working hard and making it,
Hmm.
you're just going to
Hmm.
get taxed. You're going to get, if you have rules like restoring a
Hmm.
house, oh, you need a sprinkler system. You need, your insurance is going up. Your taxes are going up because you restored a house. I mean, it's just the punishment
Wow.
for doing all this stuff is so
Right.
great. But yet, if you
Exactly.
decide, I want to be a trans muffin maker, shit, yeah, you're going to get tons of money. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It is
And
crazy, and it's important that like people like you are getting out on the road and you're seeing firsthand that the nation has all of these areas and there's
yeah.
no problem with overpopulation and these kind of agendas that they're
Oh
in
no.
Davos. They're supposed to be in Davos, I think, this week or whatever, talking about overpopulation. But a lot of people may want to look at options to get out of these northern cities and
Yeah.
to look into maybe a family could look into some of these
Oh
small
yeah.
towns that have
I'm telling
died,
you, Clayton, it was not, so I don't want people to be afraid after I said the KKK story, because that was a long time ago. And it
Yeah.
wasn't like, you could tell there's a few old elderly people there, that maybe, I mean, I don't want to judge
Mhm.
anybody, but they may be racist. But I think there's so few.
Mhm.
Somebody could go in that town and breathe life into it and be fine. I mean, I do feel like times have changed there. I don't feel. There's another town that we're looking at too. It's weird for
Mhm.
me to go into these southern states because I have. It's foreign to hear this crazy stuff. Like I
Yeah, yeah,
said,
yeah.
that went on there. It's just so horrific. And I
Definitely.
feel like, man, we owe a debt of gratitude, not in the sense of how in California they want to do reparations and stuff, but we owe to bring the businesses that were destroyed back to these
Yeah,
people
yeah.
that are living there, white and black, whatever they are. It's like, this has been targeted, like you said, it's just lives destroyed.
Oh
And
yeah. Well, these
beautiful.
are economic hitmen, and the government is rogue. So even like with when you said KKK did this, KKK doesn't have the same scary monster kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like it had at one
Right,
time.
right,
They've used it's like their usefulness is over.
right.
So
And
even
I
knowing
felt
that
that.
yeah, even knowing that it might have been the largest KKK march, it doesn't move people anymore. KKK stuff. I think they use their psyops until they can't use them anymore. So they moved on to something a little different in terms
Mhm.
of the fear mongering. But
Right.
the thing that I love is that you are courageous, and it takes courage right now in order to use your voice to document and report to us regular people. We want to know what's going on, and we have to expose these things so that we can begin to restore, and
Yeah.
restoration will be poured into people like you and your husband. What you're doing, you are making the world better wherever you go.
Yeah.
You're taking care of people who would have been left to just perish and not have love on the way out.
You know, you
And
know what we do? We carry a stack of $2 bills and
oh
give
wow.
them to people to cheer them up because they are like,
Oh,
"Whoa, I haven't
I
seen
love it.
this." Sometimes in the
That's so
toll booths, I have these Trump dollars. I'll give them in toll booths, and I'm taking off. So either they're going to be happy or like, ah. But usually they're like, I love it. So,
That's funny.
but
That's
I just
cute.
want everyone to know this, like, what we do sometimes is a little intense with it. Like, we just took in an elderly vet. That was hard the last time.
Yeah.
He had
Yeah.
his tongue removed and stuff. And oh my God, that was really like, I was like,
Wow.
God, you got to give me a strength for this one, because that was really hard.
Yeah.
But let me say this, everybody, I want to inspire you listening on Jennifer's show, because this is something so small that you can do that's going to fill your spirit. So you can go to a donut shop and get a case of donuts. You don't have to know anybody in the nursing home. And you can just show up and just say, I'm just here because I just want to pass out donuts.
Oh.
And it is so fulfilling in your soul to do that. And when I first quit drinking, um, I had helped a girl that had MS, and she was in bad shape, and I wound up having to get her into a nursing home. So I would visit her a lot. These people are amazing. Like, they are so amazing. They're going to be a breath of fresh air to sit down and talk to. And you're going to
Oh, yeah.
realize your importance as a person instantly. You're going to understand, I'm changing this person's day by sitting
Wow.
here and giving them my time, because you know I'm starting to realize the whole divide of the wealth, and how people feel like if they don't have wealth, they don't have value. And that is such
Right.
bullshit. It is
It is.
such a lie, because
It
our
is.
value is so massive. And I've seen it with my taking care of Robert, and
Mhm.
with my husband helped me. I couldn't have done it by myself, no way. um,
Right.
and those are on mass scale take ons, but like, if you just, instead of giving offering at church, give of the
Mm.
wealth that you have in your heart, and like go to a nursing home and just sit there with somebody. And
Nice.
it's awesome. I mean, it really is. And you start to realize, like, okay, what can I continue doing here? Because God really blesses that.
Absolutely. That's so beautiful. You have been given such a heart, and I know that you are going to do more in terms of God will bless you with more provisions because your heart is so big. And I believe you are good with what He's given you. I mean, just this alone, everybody, if you just joined us, look at what she did to a store. She
Walk-in
this was
cooler.
a restaurant that she turned into the cooler. She lived in the cooler of a restaurant. And, everybody called her crazy, just like everybody calls us crazy, to have she had knowledge and her vision because she has the gift of love and beauty. And this is where all creativity flows through this natural law of loving and the golden rule of treating others. And look at what she did with her stewardship. She created a beautiful, just this is a haven for her to have. She had to leave home. I mean, think about what she did. She left home at a young age. She was taken in as an
I
apprentice to learn
I
how to
pulled that
restore art.
Airstream across Texas with
Oh my
no
God.
insurance, fake tags. I'd never pulled anything in my life, and I was like Goofy in the cartoon going down the highway. It took me a couple states to figure it out, and then
I love
but I
it.
was in heaven. I was in heaven
I
because
love it.
it was mine. It
Yeah.
was my home, and I think everybody needs to feel that. I love design. I think it is
Mhm.
more important, interior design. I think it's so important because
Yes.
people say I can't afford to live and look like that. Oh my God, it changes your spirit, ambiance,
It
to have
does.
that atmosphere.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, these small towns, they're hurting so bad. They're living in such ugly places. Their
Right.
homes are so ugly. And they feel like this is my life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would love to decorate their hell. You know,
Oh
wouldn't that be
yeah. I
cool?
can.
I mean,
Oh,
it's like,
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, therapeutic, because your home and your haven where that's where you should have peace and beauty.
Right.
So there's so much that can be done. There's so much work here in this nation, and for people who have love, and the creativity will continue to flow.
Yeah.
Are you still doing music by any chance? Like, are you still singing, Jesse?
No, so I quit that entirely. Like after I came back from, so the reason I left for California is I had a really scary situation, and I had a stalker, and it scared the crap out of me, and I quit. And it was a to hell with this moment. I'm done. Because I had
Okay,
hit so many walls. Like one
right.
of Willie's managers said he wanted to manage me, and he wanted me to get into his truck and take a drive around the golf course. Like it's just I
Oh.
was so fucking mad,
Mhm,
excuse my
mhm.
language. But I
No.
was so angry because I
Yeah,
just felt like no one would take me seriously for my talents, and
right.
just it was so demeaning, and I was tired of feeling afraid. That's the worst feeling in the world. No one,
Yeah,
feeling afraid is such a horrible feeling. I have a fantastic husband now, and I learned how to carry. So shoot.
that's awesome.
But
No,
you know
that's great. That's a balance, and I love that you
yeah.
have that balance, and it's a great example of what can be done and what can happen in life, from going from a profession that just wants to objectify women. You get
Yeah.
tired of that because you realize they're not going to take me serious, and you can't do anything other than just get out of it because it's so imbalanced, where the
Right.
women, it's this, the male and the female elements are out of whack in entertainment, whatever is called,
Yeah.
edu-
Oh, you're
you
cutting
know
out.
a very
And
solid.
oh, I lost you. Jenny. Oh gosh, I can't hear you anymore. Well, maybe I should just say goodbye. Love you, gal. What do you think, Max? Huh?
Hey there, am I back?
Oh, yes, I can hear you now.
A little stand by if you
Yeah.
hear.
Okay, well, we'll talk soon. I love you.
Stand by. Um, just
What do you think, Max? Huh?
okay. Hang on. Okay. I don't know. Give me Give me an indication if you can hear. If you hung on, I don't know if you can hear me. Having trouble with the connection. Let me know whenever you can hear if we're reconnected. Hear me, Jess? You're able to hear me now? Oh, okay. I don't know what happened. But again, Jessie is trouble. I had trouble. I got frozen on my end. I am sorry we lost connection with Jessie. However, I want us all to just know that I know you got a lot out of her story. I feel such wonderful people, even though we have our technology issues. I will let Jessie know that you all enjoyed. Okay. And we will check back with her time. If able for me. Oh, and thank you. Thanks a lot. Well, thank you for joining. If I didn't get a chance to see your comment in the comments section, I want to thank you for being patient with the technology. Sorry that it's doing this at this time and we lost our guest, but I will follow up with her afterwards. Thank you, God's Alley. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you very much. And I think I missed one. Now my view is not clear, but Molly, I want to thank you. It is really good right now. So I'll end the stream here and I will follow up with Jessie and thank her for spending some time with us. I hope you have an evening. Check. So let's see. Love you. Bye, everybody. Thanks.